Hey, what's up? My name is JM Chaley and welcome to my channel. This week I want to talk about an announcement that I have that ties to the topic that I have. And it revolves around my release of The Wicked Wound of Whitney Hill, which is out right now for 99 cents. And the topic involves one of the characters in that coven, in that story, Andrea McShane, who is deaf. And this video is about writing deaf characters. So again, I've always advocated using sensitivity readers if you're writing outside your demographic. I am a hearing person. I am not hard of hearing. I am not deaf. I needed a sensitivity reader to help me write Andrea. That's definitely what you should do if you are a hearing person who's writing a deaf person. But you got to give your sensitivity readers something to go on, something to begin. Where do you start? How do you write enough to give to a sensitivity reader for them to evaluate what you've got? So what this video is a little bit of some suggestions on where to start if you're looking to write a deaf character. Now, quick disclaimer, I'm not a sensitivity reader. Again, I'm not the person that's going to say this is the right way to do it, you have to do it this way, all this kind of stuff. Advocating, as always, to use a sensitivity reader, but you need to start somewhere, and I'm going to share what I did and what worked for me and what didn't. So first, the announcement. The Wicked Wound of Whitney Hill is available now for 99 cents. It deals with the coven, the Peabody Coven, and what's going on in Whitney Hill. And if you're reading The Unlife of Lisa Cooper, this is a short story that takes place before episode 22 of that Kindle Vella series. And as of this writing, we are on episode, I want to say 29? As of this writing, as of this filming, we're on episode 29, with episode 30 being released very soon. So you can get this short story, read it now. It won't spoil anything. If you've not read The Unlife of Lisa Cooper, you can still read The Wicked Wound of Whitney Hill. It won't ruin anything. The story stands alone. It's only 99 cents. The link is in the description. It's a short little read, about 6,000 words. It's maybe a half hour. It won't blow away your TBR. It's got some fun and some adventure, lots of adventure, and some suspense and magic and paranormal craziness crammed into 6,000 words. And I hope you love it. I hope you check it out. But anyway, one of the 7 members of the coven is Andrea McShane, and she is deaf. Now, when I went about researching her deafness for her character, I needed to understand what it meant to be deaf. There's a bit of a spectrum, right? There's hard of hearing, there's deaf, and there's different ways in which someone could be considered deaf. Do they hear any sound at all? Do they hear no sound? Is it an outer ear problem? Is it an inner ear problem? Did they get a cochlear implant? There's all sorts of things that I had to learn and understand before I even could begin to write scenes with Andrea in them. How she communicated, if she could hear anything, what she did to talk. Could she use the phone? All this kind of stuff. The other thing you want to do is, this is a character. You know, your character is multi-dimensional. You're not writing a deaf character. You're writing a character who happens to be deaf. You know, they have a life. Andrea is a single mother. She's a nurse. She has a life. She leads a coven of spellcasters. I mean, she has so much going on in her life, and she happens to be deaf. So I researched what it was like for someone who's deaf to be in healthcare. Can someone who's deaf be a doctor? Yes. A nurse? Yes. Anything they want, you know. Are there challenges? Sure. But there's ways to get around that. I watched those videos. You know, did it come up in the story itself? The details of what she does at work? No. But it helped me understand so that I could write it to say, yes, she's a nurse. And I know that she can do that job, and it's not a problem at all. So definitely do your research. Go out online, research writing deaf characters. Just type that into Google, writing a deaf character. There's going to be tons of helpful web pages that come out and point you in the right direction and give you a wealth of information. Go on YouTube and research writing a deaf character. Research deafness. There's tons of videos out there. I was delighted to find so many helpful channels out there that are put out by content creators who are deaf or hard of hearing that are trying to help the hearing community understand, because it just makes it easier for everybody if we're living together, trying to communicate together. And these amazing videos, these really helpful videos, really helped me try to put myself into Andrea and understand what she was able to do and how she communicated and what it was like in her day-to-day, how she worked, her job, and everything like that. I would also recommend learning some ASL, learning some sign language, or BSL, you know, the American Sign Language, depending on where your character is from. Maybe they're learning British Sign Language, which is different than American Sign Language, but definitely check out some of those videos. I found a bunch of them that were like, hey, here's your first 25 signs you should learn. If you're looking to pick up some conversational ASL, here's 10 signs really quickly that you can learn. So when you have a character that's doing something with their hands and they need to sign, is it something they can do with one hand, like saying thank you? Or do they need both hands? In the middle of a scene that you may be writing for a particular character, these kind of things matter. But the other cool thing about this is that you can use the description of the signs themselves in lieu of, or in addition to, the dialogue tags or the conversation. You know, you could say, Andrea said thank you. Or you could say, Andrea, you know, touched her chin, moved her hand away, indicating thank you. You know, that's just an example. You know, this is hello. No, this isn't hello. I'm sorry. This is yes. So-and-so bobbed their fist back and forth, indicating yes. You know, that sort of thing. It gives a little bit more variety and immersion and helps the reader kind of visualize what's happening. Like, not just, oh, I signed this. It's now the reader can picture this in their head, which I think is cool. You also want to research technology. Now, depending on in what degree they're hard of hearing or deaf, they could use different types of technology that'll help them to communicate, to hear, whatever. There's cochlear implants. There's another kind of implant that attaches to the bone that's not, is it surgical? I forget. You got to research this stuff. I decided that Andrea did not have a cochlear implant. She cannot hear, and she relies on ASL. So I didn't dig too deeply into the hearing aids, implants, and those sort of things. But those types of things exist. There are people that can hear a few things muffled, you know, and they use phones with amplifiers on them that, you know, make them louder. For Andrea, there's no option for that. She cannot hear. So she has, for example, a doorbell. If someone rings the doorbell of the house, there's flashing lights that appear in the house. This technology exists. There's lots of stuff. There's apps for your phone. There's ASL apps. There's big kind of text. I think they call them like big text or something like that, where you just type in what you're trying to say. And what you're typing will actually appear on the screen in large text upside down, so the person looking at the screen of your phone can read it as you're typing it. So you don't have to type it and then show them. You're actually typing it and it shows them, you know, facing them. So there's a lot of great applications for the hard of hearing and deaf community, and you should check those out too. And if they're applicable to your character, maybe they use them. And the last tip, of course, is to get a sensitivity reader, because ultimately, whatever you research, and I found this to be the case, I thought I was in pretty good position, and, you know, it was a mixed bag. My sensitivity reader was like, you got that right. I kind of understand what you're trying to do here, but it's a little bit wrong, and that is completely wrong. So, you know, as much work as you do, as much research as you're going to do, get someone that really knows this stuff to help you get it accurate, to make sure you're not depicting anything in a harmful way. definitely leverage a sensitivity reader. So with that in mind, let's get into what my sensitivity reader went through with me. And one of the first things they led with, and they put this in quotes, so I want to read it verbatim because they put this in quotes like they were actually quoting someone, I don't know. But since they phrased it in such a way, in quotes, I wanted to keep the entire quote intact as I conveyed it to you. And this is something that was important for Andrea because there were a lot of scenes where she can only do ASL, and everyone in the coven knows ASL fluently. But everyone else in the coven is a hearing person. So there were times when I was having them speak and sign at the same time, and she was like, why are you bothering with that if everyone knows ASL? And to reinforce this point, this is what she told me. English and ASL are two completely independent languages with completely different grammar. It's like trying to write in Mandarin and speak in English at the same time. Something will suffer. So I had to be very, very careful about when the coven was communicating with each other. Was there someone present that didn't know ASL and someone need to speak for their benefit? A lot of times when they were doing the circle where they'd all join hands and do their magics and stuff like this, and they couldn't sign because they had to hold on to each other's hands. But there was one woman in the middle who was doing some sort of magic-y thing. So she would stop what she was doing and sign, facing Andrea, and some of the other women that could see her as well, and sign what she was doing. But the women behind her in the circle were facing her back. So they couldn't see her signs. So in those cases, I had the woman in the center of the magic circle speak as she was signing. But before this input, before this feedback, I hadn't explained that. I just had her speak and sign. So I was very careful to put that information in there for the reader to understand that the only reason they're speaking and signing is because some of the women in the scene, in the room, couldn't see her hands. And that made a difference. I did a research on this hearing impaired phone. It's made by Captel. And the phones are pretty neat. You can basically type in, like a computer, what you're saying, and it comes up on a screen. And the person on the other end of the phone hears kind of this robotic voice. And when they speak, their words are translated onto a screen that you can read. And I thought, well, this sounds like a technology that someone that is completely deaf would use, had, complete loss of hearing would use. And my sensitivity reader was like, nope, they wouldn't even bother, never. And I just kind of took that and said, okay. And I scrapped it, and I had them texting back and forth instead. When I had them speak, I treated it as a language. I treated it as dialogue. So I put all the quotes in, all the dialogue in quotation marks. So if I said thank you, I wrote, Andrea said thank you in quotes, just like it would be speech, because I handled it like a language, which it is. My sensitivity reader pointed that out, and she said, I'm glad that you're putting this dialogue in quotes instead of using italics, because I guess that's what some people do. And it's not right, because it should be treated as a language, which it is. She also mentioned that dialogue tags are important. A lot of times I'll write, Andrea signed this, or, so-and-so signed this, when it was important to distinguish signing from speech. But once you've established that everyone is signing and that's how they're communicating, you can use said, because that's what they're saying, and that's okay. And then just paying attention to different details in the prose. Like there was one scene where Andrea was hugging her daughter, and she pulled back enough to sign thank you to her. And my sensitivity reader liked that detail. She was like, I'm glad that you acknowledged that she needed to break the hug to speak to her. Little things like that. Pay attention to your character's hands, basically, in a scene. Can they communicate? How can they communicate? That sort of thing. So that's kind of what my feedback was, what I learned, what my approach was for writing a deaf character. I'm so glad that I did it. I'm glad that I took the time to do a research. I'm glad that I reached out to a sensitivity reader to do it right. I think my story is stronger for it. I wanted that representation there, and I feel really good about it. So that about wraps it up. Writing a deaf character, it's my first time writing a deaf character, and I'm hoping that this might help you out. If you ever need to write a deaf character, it's a place to start, right? You'll find your own way. I'm not the expert. I'm not telling you what you have to do. These are suggestions, but this is a place to start. And if you want to check out The Wicked Wound of Whitney Hill and meet Andrea and see what that's all about for yourself, the magic in the coven and all this stuff and what kind of evil lies within Whitney Hill, 99 cents on Amazon. Link is in the description. As always, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And check me out on jmchaley.com for more information and sign up for my newsletter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.